Today's story comes to us from a friend of mine who wanted it to be shared. The legitimacy of the story is up for you to decide. I'm not sure how to begin. It's been years, and I still haven't quite shaken the feeling of being watched. Even now, I can't bring myself to talk about it without feeling like I'm not alone. But maybe writing this down will help me make sense of it? Or maybe it'll just be another part of the haunting that won't let me forget? It was back in 2010. I was living in a small town in the Midwest, near a place that didn't seem to have much history. I'd moved there to start fresh, escaping from the city for a while, not expecting anything unusual to happen. The house I rented was old, even though the town felt pretty new. It felt like an old Victorian house and had creaky floors, cracked windows, and a smell that just clung to everything. But it was affordable, and, for the most part, I loved the isolation. It was quiet, with only a few neighbors. There was a lane that ran beside the property, a narrow gravel path that wound its way through a thick patch of woods. This sounds more poetic than it actually was. I'd walk along it sometimes, just to get out of the house, but every time I walked down, something felt really off. Not wrong, necessarily. More like I was being observed by something just outside where I could see. I wear glasses and I've always had bad vision. Whatever this was, it felt like daggers on me. I can't explain it better than that. But I shrugged it off at first. Then one evening, something happened. It was a Wednesday evening. The house had always had its quirks. A light that flickered, a door that didn't quite close properly, the old pipes making noise, and a draft that seemed to come from nowhere. But that night was different. I had just finished dinner. It was something simple like spaghetti or something, I don't really remember. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through a book. The house was unusually quiet, even for me. I didn't mind the silence, but it was kind of uncharacteristic since I had usually had some music on. But then I heard something. A soft, scraping sound. At first, I thought it was just the wind, or maybe the old house settling. But when it happened again, closer this time, I froze. It was coming from upstairs. Bestie, I lived alone. I didn't even have a pet. There was no one up there, not that I knew of. And I hadn't even been up in the attic for weeks, but I had been up there, so I was pretty confident it wasn't a squatter or something. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a branch against the window or a rat running across the floorboards. But as the minutes passed, the sound didn't stop. It was rhythmic and deliberate even. It almost sounded like someone dragging something heavy across the floor. I tried to dismiss it as the house settling. People said houses creaked and groaned with age, especially at night. But the sound was too precise to be anything like that. I put the book down and stood up, my heart freaking pounding in my chest. The silence had become overwhelming, and I literally felt the room go freezing cold. The stairs creaked as I made my way up to the second floor, because I'm a dumbass and thought going to look would be a good idea. The sound had stopped by then, but the air was so heavy I don't even remember if I was breathing. I walked past the guest room, the bathroom, and then the door to the attic. I knew I shouldn't go up there. I had no real reason to, and something about it just didn't sit right with me. The curiosity got the better of me. I turned the handle and pushed the door open, the smell of dust and old wood hitting me instantly. There was nothing out of the ordinary. The attic was exactly the same as I had left it, cluttered with a bunch of old shit, boxes, random things. The moonlight filtered through the little dusty window, and I could see the dust particles floating around, which was kinda gross. I stepped inside, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of dust on the floor, but there was nothing. No scraping, no dragging noise. I sighed in relief, but there was still a chill creeping up my legs, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I was straight up in cold sweats at this point. I turned to leave, but as I reached for the door, something caught my eye. In the far corner of the attic, partially hidden by a pile of old sheets, was a large black trunk. I hadn't noticed it last time I was up there. To be honest, it didn't even look like it would be able to fit through the attic entrance. The look of it made me uncomfortable, like it had been placed there intentionally. I approached it slowly, my pulse quickening. As I got closer, I noticed something strange about the trunk. The lid was slightly ajar, as if someone had recently opened it. I obviously hadn't touched it. I had no reason to. I didn't even notice it before. I pulled the lid open, but inside it was empty? Except for a single stained sheet of paper at the bottom. I took it, though, again, I don't really know why. It was old, the paper was torn at the edges, but the strange thing about it was what was written on it. The handwriting was neat and actually really pretty, similar to my great Nan's handwriting. Written were only 2 lines. They're watching. Don't go out after dark. Excuse me? The fuck? I stared at it, confused AF. What the hell was this? Who had left it here and why? Suddenly, I heard it again. That scraping sound, closer this time, coming from the direction of the hallway below me, under the freaking attic? I slammed the trunk shut and backed away, my heart hammering. I didn't know what to do, whether to run or stay, but something in me told me I needed to get out of this house. After waiting what was probably 3 minutes, but to me felt like 2 million years, the noise stopped, and I used that chance to get down the ladder, which was scary. I thought something was going to grab my legs. I made my way back to the living room, but as I passed the hallway, standing in the doorway of the kitchen was a shadow, with the shape of a person but no features. I don't know if it was from stress, being alone, or what, but I stopped breathing. My legs froze. I could not move. I just stared at it until it faded away into the air, and it was gone. I mean, look, I've seen every episode of BuzzFeed Unsolved and Ghost Files. I know they've never found evidence of anything, and I was convinced that none of it was real until that happened. After that, I left the house. I did look back at it, not really sure what I expected to see. Not that there was anything, just a house. But I didn't sleep there again. Fuck that. I moved out immediately after. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, and whatever it was, I always felt it everywhere I go. I still feel it. Like that happening connected something to me or latched onto me. All I know for sure is I'm traumatized for life.